It was on the 15th of April 1945 that we heard this rumbling going through the camp. We all ran to the barbed wire to see what was happening. And we saw jeeps were coming and lorries, armored vehicle, tanks driving through the center of the camp, and the soldier shouting through the loud air, "This is the British Army. You are being liberated." We didn't even know what liberated meant, but we knew just that we were free. In one of the first jeeps, there was a film crew that filmed the entry into Bergen-Belsen. This film was the first film that the Western world saw what actually happened in these in these camps, and what they saw was so horrific that at the time Bergen-Belsen became, after the war, the most notorious camp liberated. It was called the horror camp because it was horrific, and you might have seen some documentaries about the Holocaust, some archive films, and probably what you saw, the bulldozer pushing corpses into large pits, that probably was all from Bergen-Belsen. They were just piles of corpses that were being buried in mass grave, and if you go there today, you see this grave. Here are 5,000 buried, here 2,000, so it's a horrific scene to see what happened in Bergen-Belsen. As I said, even though Bergen-Belsen was a not extermination camp, in Bergen-Belsen over 70,000 people died. We saw this film many, many years later, about 40 odd years later. We recorded the film, and then when we were looking at it, when we saw kids at the barbed wire, we would sort of take frame by frame and see if we can see ourselves, because we remember we were at the barbed wire. And this is one of the pictures from that film, and that boy here on the top, that's my brother. And this, you can see the barbed wire here, we're standing there. There was no jubilation, people didn't dance, people were just smiling, and some of the women, they went, because Bergen-Belsen was built in middle of a forest. They broke some branches from the trees and they threw it at the soldiers, a welcoming sign. But as I said, there was no jubilation of dancing, because 90% of the inmates of Bergen-Belsen were really mortally sick. Many people still were dying even after the liberation. It is estimated between 12 to 15,000 died after the liberation because they were just too far gone and they couldn't save them. I don't show a picture from Bergen-Belsen because they're very distressing, but I have just one more picture to show you, just to show you how dehumanized we were. And this is also after the liberation. You have here a group of women. They are cooking and they're going to eat there. And what you're seeing here behind, and that would be from this side as well, these are all corpses lying around. They're not there from yesterday. They're there for weeks and months. You can imagine the stench around. And these women are going to eat there. That's how dehumanized we were. The stench, when the British Army was outside of Bergen-Belsen, about 2 kilometers, they said the stench was unbearable, and we lived in the middle of it. We didn't even smell it. I also want to read you a witness description. This was a medical team being prepared to enter the camp, and the commanding officer was preparing them what to expect. The next morning, 17th of April, 1945, on a parade, our commanding officer addressed us. He had visited the horror camp, as I said. It was called a horror camp at the time, and corroborated the rumors. It is unbelievable. he said. There is no organization, no food, nothing. Half-starved, emaciated, spiritless, demented. These people are roaming the camp, have been reduced to animal level. I went through the women's quarter of the camp hospital. It was only about 100 yards from where we lived. Many of them are stark naked, are literally crawling about on their hands and knees, too weak to walk. They're bedridden, just skin and bone, lying there on dung. In one small room were 40 women, few with any clothes, huddled together to keep warm. Some of these women have been dead for days. Nobody had come to dispose of their bodies. I have seen some sight. I thought I could take anything, but this shook me, made me vomit. Outside the dead are piled 4 feet high over a large area, and bulldozers are having to be employed to shovel these bodies into large pits. I could tell you more, even worse, but it is too sickening to talk about. That was Bergen-Belsen. I also want to read you just 3 lines from a letter which was written by Reverend Morrison. He was chaplain in the British Army that liberated Bergen-Belsen. And he wrote this letter to his sister Nora Birmingham in Ballysimon, County Limerick. I met many of his family. And he wrote this: so far I have buried over 15,000, and I have not been able to attend their funeral, as I consider the dying more important than the dead. Those 15,000 did not take up much of my time, as 10 graves held up to 5,000 bodies each. 15,000 to bury didn't take much of his time. I want to also mention a couple of statistics. First of all, from the population, Jewish population of Slovakia of 85 to 90,000, only between 17 and 20,000 survived. Rest of them all perished in the Holocaust. Among them, as I mentioned, 35 members of my family from my mother's side and from my father's side. Also, 42 guards on Bergen-Belsen were put on trial. 12 of them were sentenced to death by hanging for crime against humanity. Among them, the commander of Bergen-Belsen, Joseph Kramer. He was a sadist, a murderer. He used to stand on beside the kitchen on a platform, and when some of the inmates would come near the kitchen to try to steal some food because they were starving, he just shot them. We used to hear these shots being fired, and when we were on our roll call, these corpses were left there deliberately as a sign: if you do something out of the ordinary, this is what will happen to you. So 12 of them, including the commanders, were sentenced to death by hanging. 19 got different length of prison, and the remainder were acquitted. They claimed they just carried out order afterwards, and they captured 200 more. They brought them back to Bergen-Belsen. They never stood a trial. They claimed they were carrying out order and got away with it. Joseph Tiso was put on trial in 1947 by the Czechoslovak government. He was also sentenced to death by hanging for crime against humanity, not necessarily what he did to the Jews, but what he did to his own people. I want to mention that today Ireland is a multinational society, and we must remember that Holocaust did not start with gas chambers. Holocaust started with whisper, town, dubbing, abuse, and finally murder. I'm not suggesting such a thing could happen here. But we have a recession here, and for the past 10 years. And many people try to blame other people for their trouble. So if you see that somebody is abusing somebody else because they're foreign, or because they're different religion, or because they're different color skin. Don't become a bystander. Get involved and say it's wrong. Stop it. Because when it was happening to us, nobody said it was wrong. And look what happened to us. Today, history is repeating itself. Today we can see refugees that are trying to escape torture, abuse, murder, rape, and we don't want them. And these people need to be helped. They are escaping what Jews wanted to do in 1939, but nobody wanted them. And look what tragedy happened. So I hope Ireland will play its role, because in 1939 they closed the door for any Jews to come to Ireland. And today they will take some of these foreigners. We know that they have different outlook, they're different manners and things, but we have to make the effort to integrate them into our society so that they become a useful citizen of this country. If not, we will have trouble later on. So hopefully we will do our duty and help these people. The Holocaust was a unique event. It shouldn't be compared to anything that happened since, and let's hope never happen again. Holocaust was premeditated. They wanted to eradicate the entire Jewish population of Europe that numbered 11 million. They succeeded to kill 6 million. So it shouldn't be compared to anything else, and we shouldn't ever forget what happened. I want to finish with a poem which is very appropriate to this lecture. It was written by Yehuda Bauer in 2001. The horror of Holocaust is not that it deviated from the human norms. The horror is that it didn't. What happened might happen again to others, not necessarily Jews, perpetrated by others, not necessarily German. We are all possible victims, possible perpetrators, possible bystanders. Thank you for your patience. Thank you.